Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today I wanted to start a discussion about solo queue in Pokemon Unite, or just in general the experience of solo queue. So there's going to be a few topics in this video, and really I got to give y'all credit because I love when y'all come to the streams and you ask me questions, and it just jogs my brain and it puts us in this position where I have to think about, how to present my thoughts and my feelings, and then I enjoy the conversation so much that I actually want to make a video on it. So I've been getting a lot of questions. It's one of my probably most recurring question about, how do I climb in solo queue? How do I deal with teammates that are bad, and all of these different kinds of like generalized questions that you would imagine someone might have. And here's the thing: as a player that plays this game a whole lot, and someone that I think that I do very well, and I try to teach the game and things, these are also questions that I'm asking. These are questions that I am questioning, like, to the universe myself. How do I improve in solo queue? How do I have more of an impact in games? Even recently, I asked myself, is there some kind of a strategy that I can employ to guarantee every major objective? And don't really have an answer for that one, but let's go ahead and dive into the topic. So I think that there's a few different angles that I want to hit this discussion from. First and foremost, how do you perform in solo queue? What can you do? Well, the reality is this: you can only do your best. And that's just the truth. Now, that can come in a lot of different forms. What does doing your best mean? Well, one, it means being very well studied up on the game, knowing, all of the major things you need to know. When people ask me for tips for solo queuing, this is my default answer. You need to understand the game inside and out. You need to know every timer. 850s for Bs, 720s for Bs, 7 minutes for Dreadnought. You need to know 745 for mid-core fish. You need to know 9 minutes for the back of lane core fish. Like, you need to know every single timing. There's no excuse for trying to be a good player and not understanding all the timings, and also having a deep understanding of regular player behavior in terms of rotating down to Dreadnought, or why you would want to rotate down to Dreadnought, or when do you want to avoid fights versus taking fights. And a lot of this is not something that can be easily taught. In fact, I actually had a comment today that asked something rather simple, but it's kind of a hard answer, is when at the end of the games in the last 2 minutes should you be trying to group with your team or looking for like a backdoor turn in? And honestly, that answer is so variable dependent. It depends on, what the current score is, how much time is left, where your team is positioned, where the enemy team is positioned, how many points do you have on you, can you get a quick score in and go back? Like, there's so many little variables, and a lot of that is very anecdotal that I could give like answers to, would just depend. So, those are things that you kind of have to pick up with time and play and learn and understand the context of the game and have good game sense to try to master. But in terms of improving in solo queue, again, let's go back to that first initial thought, is you just have to be the best player you can be. The reality, and this is not something that I think most people are going to be comfortable with, but this is true: if you are a better player than the rank that you are in, you will get out of that rank. And it may take time, but that's fine. The measurement for skill is not set in a very small amount of games, it's set in the majority of your games. So if you play 10 games in a day, and maybe you had bad performance in like a few of those, or maybe you had really bad teammates in the majority of those, whatever the case may be, well, those 10 games can't really define you as a player. Those 10 games aren't really a very solid, accurate representation of just what rank you deserve to be in or how good you are. But if you were to play 100 games over, let's say, the course of like a week or a month or something, or 200 games, and you're stuck at a rank, well, then the reality is that that is not you being stuck at a rank. That is the rank that you're currently performing in. That's the level that you're performing in. And in order to break through that threshold, you need to improve. And, there is no blanket way to tell you what you need to improve on, because I quite simply can't see what you're doing wrong potentially. And of course, in those 100 to 200 games, that sample size of games that we defined, of course some of those games you played well and still lost. Of course you're going to have some games where you had bad teammates, but that is truly something that we all experience and something that we all have to deal with. So You know, if it's possible for one person in this life, this is just life advice all of a sudden, if something is possible for one person, then it's possible for you, most likely. And if not, it may not even be as easy as it is for you, but it's still possible. You know, some people come from money and have it really, really easy to have the life and, you know, scoot into the life and the career path that they want. As for someone that might come from, you know, a little bit more of an impoverished part of town who has to work much, much harder. But the sentiment is that if you believe and you work hard, then you'll be able to achieve that. So, but the solo queue experience, you know, this is going to lead kind of into the other part of this discussion that I wanted to have. The solo queue experience is very complicated because I do believe that the ranked system in this game is suffering from rank inflation. And we've talked about this a lot on stream as well, where, you know, the mix of performance points and bot matches and, you know, a really wide range of matchmaking really leads the game to be in this place where I think that regardless of how a person's playing, the ranks still don't accurately depict how strong a player is, because of the fact that, you know, some people are getting wins because they're paired with higher ranked players, or some people are, you know, having their loss streaks sponged by a bot game, or they're accelerating through the ranks very quickly because of performance points, or they're having a loss, you know, be prevented because of performance points. And all of these different little systems that are very forgiving in a ranked mode that is intended to accurately place you based on your skill have kind of slowly skewed the results. It has slowly skewed the results to where, you know, I do think that there are probably some really good players that maybe have just, you know, caught the bad end of luck and are taking a little bit longer to get to the rank that they need to be. Usually not the case though, but for sure we are going to have players that have actually climbed a little bit higher than I think than they should be if the system was a bit more serious, I guess is the word to say here, or a bit more, or actually no, a bit less forgiving. If the system was a bit less forgiving, then you would have a system that better accurately placed players. Again, not necessarily the biggest issue in the world. I don't think this is an existential issue for the game, but I do think that the experience of playing the game in solo queue has definitely been a little bit tarnished and damaged because of that fact. Because, you know, I don't have faith that whenever I enter a Masters game that everybody's going to be performing on the same level as me, or that maybe even I may not be performing on the same level as another Masters players. Because, you know, the reality is just because I'm Masters doesn't give me full validation to feel like I deserve that, because I recognize some of the issues with this kind of a rank system. So, you know, when it comes to solo queuing or just, you know, playing non-5 queue, there are certain things that I think that you can do to try to you know, push yourself over the line to do better, to perform a little bit better. And like I said, having a deep understanding of the game is one of those things, but also making sure that you are filling roles, making sure that you are playing picks that are very, very strong, trying to find the pick in that game that synergizes well with your team, trying to play the right build and the right items, and having, like I said, this all just comes down to having a really good understanding of the game and a really good understanding of the meta. And I think that the more that you can employ some of that practice, the more that you can, you know, maybe put aside some of your own desires for winning, then you will have a much better time. One thing that I always say, and this is something, there's something psychological rooted in here, and I'm not sure what it is because I don't really fully understand the human psychology, but there's something to be said about people that they want the win, they want to win, they want to rank up, but for some reason they want the win with like this own set of conditions behind it. They want to win with these ankle weights on, and I don't really quite understand it. And what I mean by that is that someone wants to win really bad. All they want to do is win, but they want to do it as a Talonflame one trick, or they want to do it as someone that, you know, plays like an off-meta team or tries something new. And like, I don't know what that is really, but I think that there is definitely like, especially over time, there's definitely a meta that becomes cemented in the game and will sit there for a while and can be challenged, don't get me wrong, but the meta usually tends to sit for a while, and then there will always be players that want to be anti-meta and try something ridiculous, but then they get frustrated whenever they lose. So, you know, maybe be conscious of that in your own psychology. Like, yeah, I would love to go in my games as a Charizard main and win every single game as Charizard, but the reality is when I jungle Greninja, I have a better performance. So definitely be a little bit conscious of that. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below about your experience with solo queue and how you feel about it, because at the end of the day, there's only so much that you can do, and that always will ring true. You have to do your best, and over a large sample size of games, the more consistent you are, the better you play, the better you're employing, you know, your strong understanding of the game, and the more you're learning about the game throughout this process, the better off you will be. So thank you so much for spending your time with me here on the channel. If you're new, definitely drop a like and subscribe for future Pokemon Unite content. I would definitely appreciate it. As always, be sure to be kind to one another, tell someone that you love them, and I'll see you on the next video.